everybody. This week we're going to talk about chapter 1 in the book Made to Crave. This book has been really amazing. It goes right along with how I coach my clients, and it's been an incredible study. If y'all have been some of the ones joining us during the weekdays, I believe it's Thursdays at 2 my time, and on my Zoom. Let me know if you want to join. It has been incredible depth of study into what we do, what cravings mean, how do we change them. So we are now on chapter 1 that I'm reviewing, and this is all about the difference between your want to, your need to and your want to, I think is what she talks about. So in this chapter, she talks about the difference between simply telling yourself or somebody telling you, eat better, eat healthier. And she says that simply telling me to eat healthier foods that will help me feel full longer, because there are some foods that make you feel full, doesn't address the heart of the matter. She says, I can feel full after a meal and I can still crave chocolate. I deal with this with a lot of my clients. So telling them what they should do, and you probably found this too in this type of situation and in a lot of other situations where you're trying to change your habits, telling yourself you should and knowing you want to is a little different than actually doing it. And so she goes into depth talking about this. She says, if feeling full were the answer, then gastric bypass surgery would be 100% successful. And it's not. She actually points out, and there's a study that says there's a failure rate for patients who followed at least 10 years was 20.4% for morbidly obese patients and 34.9% for super obese patients. So there's a failure rate. I know because I have clients who had that surgery done, and they were able to train their stomach to come back from that and stretch their stomach and eat more because this was not changed. So what you put in here makes a big difference, but what's in here is what changes what you put in here. Makes a very big difference. She talks about cravings, that the dictionary defines cravings as something that you long for, want greatly, desire eagerly, and beg for. And then she says, consider this expression, how lovely is your dwelling place, O Lord Almighty. My soul yearns, even faints, for those courts of the Lord. My heart and my flesh cry out for the living God. That's Psalm 84, 1 through 2. So we were made to crave God. And this side of heaven, we have a hard time because there's so much that we are tempted with. And then she goes into how the enemy tempted Eve and how he tempted Jesus. And he did it exactly the same way. So she talks about here, there are 3 ways in which Satan tries to lure us away from our focus on God. We were made to crave, long for, want greatly, desire eagerly, and beg for God and only God. But this side of heaven, Satan tempts us with craving other things. And he does it through cravings of the sinful man, the lust of the eyes, and the boasting of what he has or does. So he did that with Eve. He had her crave trying to get our physical desires met outside the will of God, trying to get our material desires met outside the will of God, and boasting, trying to get our need for significance met outside the will of God. And so he tempted her with this delicious looking food that she was told not to eat, and boasting that it would make her like God, knowing good and evil, right? So he tempted her with all 3 tactics. And she saw that it was pleasing to the eyes and that it was desirable for gaining wisdom and all. But at the same time, the same kind of way, rather, he tempted Jesus. The craving, Satan appealed to Jesus' physical cravings for food. Now, I was talking to the group about this. This is something that, Eve was not starving for food. She had not been on a fast, right? She didn't have the need. Satan tempted Jesus, and he did. Remember, he was fasting. He really needed nutrition, and he said no, right, to the cravings. Lust of the eyes. The devil promised Jesus the entire kingdom if he would bow down to the god of materialism, but of course he didn't, because he knew better. He understood more. And then boasting, the enemy enticed Jesus to prove his significance by forcing God to command the angels to save him. And Jesus said no to all three of those things, while Eve said yes. And Eve was tempted less than what Jesus was tempted with, although Jesus, because he was perfect and sinless, had an easier time, to say no. We have a harder time to say no. So he was saturated in Eve was saturated in the object of her desire, and Jesus was saturated in God's truth. He was focused on God, and Eve was focused on the fruit. And so she says, if I make healthy choices over a period of time, it seems to reprogram my taste buds. Now, she said this, I believe it was in the introduction too, and I think I talked about that on the previous video, but I see this a lot with my clients. Those clients that craved this particular cookie. I have a client, she loved this cookie, and she went without it for several months and went to visit her son who had the cookies for her. And she thought, well, I'm just going to take a bite of the cookie after not having it for a while. She noticed, by the way, not having it for a while, she wasn't craving the cookie. She used to. She got it out of her house, and she was on one of the programs that I coach. She was doing amazingly well. Not perfect, but very well, and was not craving the cookie. Went to her son's house, had the cookie, a bite of it, and realized not only did she not crave it anymore, she didn't even like it anymore. It reprogrammed her taste buds. So the more you make healthy choices, the easier your body makes it on you. Isn't God amazing? Okay, then she talks about everything being permissible, but not everything being beneficial. That is 1 Corinthians 10:23. So just because you shouldn't have it for a time, or just because you, like I liken it to, if you're allergic to strawberries, are strawberries bad? No. Are they bad for you? Yes. Are they necessary? I mean, something like birthday cake, right? My husband and I celebrated our 38th wedding anniversary back in January. We had cake, okay? Did we have a lot of cake? No. Did we have some cake? Yeah. Do we have cake every day? No. It's habits. And we don't crave the cake, and we don't have the cake every single day. So that makes a big difference. Everything is permissible. It's not evil, a sin, to have cake, but it is not beneficial to have it every day. Then she goes into some reflections, things that you can ask yourself after each chapter. I'm going to let you go through that. This is already a little bit long, but I wanted to bring you that. This is amazing. It talks about making choices, thinking about the choices we make, and I want to leave you with this. We call that stop, challenge, and choose. Stop before, when you're craving something, stop. Challenge yourself. Is this beneficial for me right now? And then make a choice. And then be happy with the choice that you made. Talk to you next week.